Okay, welcome. It's Thursday evening. Pardon? Oh yes, Friday. Friday evening exploration into Samsara, Nirvana, and Buddha nature. But before we do so, see, I'm already in Samsara, going in cycle. Okay, so we are in our another Friday cycle of existence, and to make the most of this cyclic existence of our meeting every Friday evening, let's first spend a few minutes in silent meditation, getting our postures right, especially the back upright when you are doing a sitting meditation. Try to bring the mind home to this time, this place, this moment. Just as the saying goes, the body is squarely on its place with the mind within it, not outside of it, and there is the prospect of peace settling into the mind. So try to find your mind within the body, with the body squarely yet comfortably placed. Let the mind settle into its own natural rhythm while focusing on any parts within the body, be it the sensations of the breath. Try to do so alertly, attentively, delightfully. Next, we have a series of recitations. Hopefully, with its relatively calm state of mind, you'll be able to recite these with more focus and attention and try to come up with a felt sense of what we are seeing. Let's do this.
To the teacher endowed, transcendent destroyer, the oneness gone, foe destroyer, completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one bound to bliss, nor of the world supreme guide of beings to be tamed. Teacher of gods and humans, to you the Buddha endowed, transcendent destroyer, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who arise and I bow. With pure bodies formed supremely fine, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain. Fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best supreme guide, to you I bow. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not, incomparable wise one, to you I bow. Great compassionate protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagata I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the lower realms. Unique, supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom too, well established in the trainings. The holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through this merit may sentient beings attain the state of all seeing, subdue the foe of false, and be delivered from the ocean of cyclic existence perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn, Mount Meru, foreland, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you, may all beings enjoy this pure land. Venerable holy gurus, in the space of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami.
I take refuge
Until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge
So, by way of setting a proper and fitting motivation for this session, as we are discussing and exploring Dharma, let's try to mold our mind in tune with what we have just aspired to do, which is to attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. Let's take a moment here in exploring how others deserve such a treatment from us, in willing to take upon ourselves the responsibility and also face the hardships on the path of achieving not a trivial feat, but the fullest of it, the fullest and the highest of attainments, the fullest and the highest of goals that we can set before ourselves, that is attaining Buddhahood, which is saying, leaving no room whatsoever for any afflictions and the traces, residues of them, instead replacing them completely, thoroughly with the full awakening of all the positive qualities, which would definitely entail sacrificing a lot, almost like taking a 180-degree turn from our own habitual being. That's really aspiring to be radically changed. How is it that we can aspire to do so, to take upon ourselves such a responsibility for the sake of others? How is it that others deserve this? First and foremost, we are because of others. Just think of when we were born. We had nothing except our very, very delicate body and very, very innocent mind, or very premature mind. And the body that we call ourselves, do not even question who else does it belong to. It has come from our parents and we came with nothing else with us. So think of ourselves at this point, what we know, what we have, what we can call ourselves, ours. From the education to the work, security, to the future prospects, possible prospects of even rising higher up the aspired ladder. All of this has depended on others and will depend on others. Be that someone else, be someone you know or you do not know, or you will ever know. On top of this, there is no difference whatsoever between us and others. And here we can even go beyond our human race, humankind, in our very basic aspiration, rightful aspiration, fundamental rightful aspiration for wanting happiness and not suffering. We are all same. Each and every one of us make our moves every day, be that through our body, speech, and mind, driven by this aspiration, which is rightful, fundamental, rational, totally deserving, yet taking clue from our own selves. Let's see how smart we all are in really pursuing this rightful goal. How successful we are. Where are we despite all the so-called successes? Where are we in this journey of our rightful pursuance of happiness and abandoning suffering? Be that in our own personal lives or in collective lives, public lives, private lives. More often than not, we come upon sufferings, we come upon mishaps. In many cases, mishaps, tragedies of our own making, be that mental tragedies or physical. And in this condition of incompetence in matching our actions with the rightful deep aspiration, we all same. Despite this confusion, we still extend our helping hands to each other, be that willingly, intentionally or not. We get by within our confusion, amongst our confusion, through helping each other. So no one is deserving of any mistreatment, mishap, tragedies. And then, if only we could look at things properly, we cannot point to anything that others do which could not be turned around into something positive for ourselves, while they are paying the prices of their own misbehavior, misdeeds, whatnot. This has been the case all along, even continues to this day. As much as we can count innumerable people who have made explicit, direct difference in our lives for the better, likewise, we could as well count, we leave out none for the prospect, the potential, at least they carry, that we can take advantage of if only we could look at them properly. So from this angle, we have every reason to be caring, loving, cherishing, valuing others. And our own good, our own benefit lies in caring for them, in thinking about them, in caring for them, in loving them, being compassionate towards them. For that, they serve as the indispensable object, indispensable impetus for us. So as much as we aspire to get ourselves freed from the sufferings, likewise, we should as well be valuing the role of others and also including them in this journey of ours, in making our mutual conditions better. So thinking along these lines, as well as thinking from the Buddhist viewpoint of how Buddhas, Bodhisattvas become who they are. Due to others, we may say due to the kindness of others, at the least, without their participation, without their involvement, there wouldn't be any Bodhisattvas, there wouldn't be any Buddhas. So likewise, our aspiration is totally dependent on them. So looking from all these fronts, we have no choice. We should be naturally be more kind, open, caring to others. Let's dedicate this session together in expanding our sense of other caring even greater. So we eventually able to include all sentient beings that could be conceived of, not just human in this world, but beyond that, into the universe, wherever there may be sentient beings who have the same aspirations, undergo sufferings, even though they do not fall short of happiness that they aspire for so deeply. Towards that end, let's aspire to become fully awakened so that we can be of true benefit to all sentient beings, benefit that could last, benefit that could provide them everything, benefits that could lead them to actually fulfilling their rightful aspiration for lasting happiness and total elimination of sufferings. Okay, so we are still in that chapter. For those of you online, joining online, we are looking at page 278, the last paragraph. Is that where we left last time? Okay. Which opens with Bhagavan, or endowed victor. Is that where we left last time? I think so. Is one epithet of the Buddha. So that's Chomden De in Tibetan. Tumba Chomden De. The translators, when they were translating this word Bhagavan into Tibetan, they added one more syllable, De, which means transcend, or exceed, or excel. The original word itself, Bhagavan, Chomden means endowed victor. Chomden means someone who possesses the quality of having overcome something. Chom means destroy, for destroyer, like someone who has eliminated something that needs to be eliminated. So endowed with the quality of having abandoned something that needed to be abandoned, so that it is now something of a past, not to worry about anymore about it coming back. Whereas most of our problems keep coming back. That's because our hitting, our addressing hasn't gone that far. We fall short of striking at them. Whereas Chomden alludes to that quality of having abandoned something that needed to be abandoned to such an extent of now making it never return back. In this regard, there can be, relatively speaking, there can be many people, many beings who are not yet Buddhas, who could have partly part of this quality. So even from Buddhist point of view, from the path of seeing onward, the beings on the path of seeing onward, they gain what we call cessation. Not necessarily cessation of the full defilements or full obscurations, obstructions, but part of it. And then they do so increasingly, incrementally, as they move on along. So they also have Chomden, kind of a possessor of a quality of permanent abandonment of certain quality. So they needed to add one syllable, which means that means transcend. One who excels among all those who claim or who possess some quality of such abandonment, such level of abandonment. So transcendent for destroyer, or transcendent destroyer, transcendent eliminator, something like that. Anyway, it is one epithet of the Buddha. So in terms of having transcended it, transcended everyone, transcended anyone who could have any amount of such quality, there will be none but the Buddha, who has become fully awakened. And this quality of full awakening is not just a quality of, not just an intellectual quality of awakening, of become aware, rather awakening in the sense of all of the positive, I will say, all of the positive mind cells, mental cells, having become fully activated. And under the weight of it, none of the negativities, even stand the chance of ever popping up its head, because of its having been totally eliminated, even to its very subtlest traces, subtlest stains. If we were to think of bad smell producing thing as something to be avoided, in this case, not just getting rid of the thing itself, but even the subtle stains it could have left behind, even that has been cleared. So to that extent, a Buddha has become awakened. I don't know how awakened happens to be chosen to be a word for translation here, but once we accept it, I have to insist, what do you call, force the connotations into it. So awakened usually has this sense of becoming aware, not anymore, how do you call, ignorant, right? Aware, but it has this quality of, added quality of awakening all of its positive qualities. So that doesn't necessarily always is limited to cognitive aspects, but also empathic, emotional empathy qualities as well, which means leaving none of the positive potentials unawakened, fully awakened. So Buddha's state is the state of nothing remaining as a potency. All of the positivities have fully awakened, not just partially awakened or awakening, or it is fully awakened. Now you may ask, what about the negativities? Oh no, the training is such that with the cultivation of the positivity, it's natural for its opposite negativities to weaken. And then the training itself involves deliberate attempt in addressing them. And that's so in a very smart way. How? By knowing the ins and outs of these afflictions. And thus striking at them where it should hit. The Buddha is endowed with all excellent qualities and it's victorious in overcoming the 4 maras. Now comes the topic of maras. I've been dying to discuss this. Or should I say, I've been dying to face this. The 4 maras. So the Buddha is endowed with all excellent qualities. So that part, all excellent qualities have become fully awakened, right? And none of the excellent qualities is there yet to be awakened, yet to be activated. And thus, under the force of that, he has become fully victorious in overcoming any obstacles whatsoever in the way of becoming a fully awakened being. And that obstacles includes 4 maras. And the 4 maras are here. Which number in the series is it? It is 3, right? I think in the either in here or somewhere, Venerable may have expanded on this, but here she's treating it in a very very brief way, counting the 4 maras, the polluted aggregates, afflictions, death, distraction to external objects. Can any one of you, or do you want to count these 4 little differently with different translation. I'm pushing. Well, but the last one, yeah, the last one, she has been very generous in not in kind of in kind of being very skillful as well as nailing it right in terms of what it does, but avoids using direct translation there. Okay, let's redo it. The four matters, aggregates, the polluted aggregates, right? The polluted aggregates means our own 5 aggregates, which are born from the afflictions and the actions induced by them. So with the afflictions being the main cause, which leads to the actions as afflicted and defiled, the two combined together propels our birth within samsara. And that birth take particular form with aggregates. In some cases, very subtle aggregates, some cases gross aggregates like ours. And some have not all the 5 aggregates, but 4 of them. But some have, well, if we speak in terms of gross levels. So aggregates. So polluted aggregates is very essential to be pointed out. In that these aggregates, this our body-mind complex is a result of polluted cause and conditions. And because of that, the resultant aggregates are polluted in that they have deficiencies, natural deficiencies. We do not have to add on it, but we do. We add onto the deficiencies of the aggregates by mistreating it, not understanding it. But the aggregates themselves are so polluted that they have their own natural disadvantages, natural weaknesses. And over time it becomes very clear, right? But even early on also, its deficiencies in terms of its being vulnerable to diseases, etc. Aging. It starts right from our birth, and our vulnerability to any weaknesses, all of those are there. So that's one Mara. Mara, not with eyes and nose and ears. Then the second is afflictions, the afflictions themselves, the cause. The main cause for these aggregates is the afflictions. Although I sometimes see the need of really defining afflictions, because in English, affliction is a very general term, very general term. So much so that I clearly remember in one of my visits to India on our science intensive program, which usually coincides with study abroad students from Emory. So very often I will be involved with them as well, not as a formal part of it, but informally being involved with their projects and whatnot. One statement someone made is that fear definitely is an affliction. And that's perfectly right in the usage of the term in English. But here we are using affliction in a very specific way, more loaded, Buddhist loaded way, that it cannot just be used so liberally to include fear in general. Sadness in general. By which I'm saying that fear in general is not an affliction in this sense. Fear doesn't necessarily have to be anything bad. At a certain point of one's progression, there could be certain types of fears that we need to cultivate and then overcome them. Or be done with them, be done, or in a sense, generate that fear, and then by utilizing it, you then achieve, you overcome the point of concern, so that the fear diffuses, as well as the fear would have been made proper use of. So in that sense, it's not something to be blocked up front or denied or kind of objected up front. Rather, cultivate in the first place, make it grow, and then let it lead one to a certain spiritual awakening. So is the same case with some sense of sadness as well, some sense of unease as well. Because there are certain things in the world that definitely, and what do you call, deserves being disapproved of, being unhappy about. And from that comes something good. Otherwise, that good cannot come. So anyway, here affliction is the klesha, in Tibetan nyamon. It necessarily has to be or misinformed by the misconstrued self-grasping, and then to a certain extent even fed by self-centeredness. Then there is death. Now here, death not in general, death over which we have no control. Rather, the control lies in the hands of afflictions and the karma induced by them. So some kind of a death that is imposed upon us without our control, without our say, by certain forces. Of course, the forces within us in the form of afflictions and karma induced by them, but they control it without our consent, without our chance of having any say over that. That kind of a death is considered a mara. And when, okay, and then there is this fourth one, the fourth mara. The fourth mara is, just as in all the other maras, the fourth mara also has two levels, subtle and gross. Here we are not making that distinction. We are in general just speaking of the gross maras. In any way, the fourth one is the king of desire realm, the boss of desire realm. So whoever tries to supersede desire realm, he gets disturbed. Why don't they stay within my realm? Why do they transcend me and make me or render me useless or even weaker than them? So somehow it is not someone fixed, but it is a being. Like within our society also we can find so many people thinking so many different ways, and some that we cannot imagine even, right? Make sense of it. But people can be so engrossed in it, so into it, and so bought into it that they cannot see any other way. And all that does is destruction. So likewise, we are capable of becoming someone or something of some status or stature or status within the samsaric society, yet at the same time not be smart enough in really knowing the real cause of suffering, and thus be ill-intended towards those who excel themselves, excel them. So anyhow, on a gross level, this fourth one is a being called Devaputra, literally translated as Deva's son. Not necessarily son, it could be a daughter also. Depending on who creates the karma. It's a karmic result, right? So Devaputra, but it says even in the English or even in the original Sanskrit also it says Devaputra. Putra means son, not daughters. So maybe not daughters. Anyway. And it is interesting. These four maras are presented in a way that kind of, I think, brings us some additional perspective to what Buddhism is claiming is possible, which is a state of deathlessness. Although even in the sutras they speak of for deva, for maras and whatnot, and they function in keeping us from achieving the state of deathlessness, but the full explanation of that can be only possible through the highest yoga tantra. Because in us, only one thing that is deathless is our clear light mind. Clear light minds mount in the form of the subtlest energy. All the rest of our minds, including mental, not this gross one, even subtler than this, so long as it is short of the subtlest mind, all of them are temporary. Usually we do not hear that. On the sutra level, we hear almost like we are speaking of the mental mind, which is what remains, keeps going. But this mental mind that we associate with, that we identify, that we can identify, is so gross. It is adventitious, as much as all the afflictions are. Not just afflictions are adventitious, but even all of the rest of the mental minds are adventitious, in the sense of having an end to it, of having I cannot say having studied somewhere. We could, at least we could say studied somewhere. Because when we speak of its beginninglessness, be that for the mental things or physical things, we have to rely on. For a full explanation, we have to rely on the subtlest clear light mind and its subtlest and its mount in the form of the subtlest energy. The two, they are the actual things that didn't see any birth anew and wouldn't see any death anymore. But we could become, we could attain a state of deathlessness only when we could have nothing but just that in terms of our, you may call it aggregate or whatever, nothing but the subtlest clear mind and its mount, and that too fully functional, fully operational. On that basis, then we become fully operational, fully functional, yet at the same time having not to meet with death anymore. Because that is deathless. That has no birth, no death, no birth, no ceasing. All the rest have. Yeah, it would be difficult to wrap our heads around it. Today, I was able to match this expression with a Tibetan word. The Tibetan word is Gotse Masong, which means my head is not cooked around it. My head is still uncooked around it. I said, this cannot be said in English. What could be? Yeah, you can say half-baked, but no. What I meant is, in Tibetan we have this expression when we say that I cannot understand it. My head is not cooked. Well enough. But I thought, oh, this cannot be the translation. There's something would be, I can't wrap my head around it. Have something head about it, but not quite say cook, say wrap. So that's what I'm collecting and maybe contributing to the Tibetan society. And there are so many such expressions which are hard to be conveyed in English if one were to do a direct translation. And sometimes the direct translation can make big blunder. Did I share it here or some other occasion? Maybe in Atlanta I shared it. Anyway, I will spare you. I will spare you with another laughter. Is that being kind? Oh, no, it wouldn't be in good taste for a monk to say that. Let me put it that way. Yeah, otherwise, it is an actual happening, and it is so strange. Yeah, someone was doing direct translation. Oh, it was not a blast. It was a total crash. Okay. Yeah, some time ago, when I was in Atlanta, now this is becoming a thing of the past. When I was in Atlanta, I came across this Week Times magazine that they put out at the end of the year, where they speak of 100 Tamils, something. And maybe, yeah, among them I saw one scientist who claims to have found some kind of a element within us, chemical substance within us, that when harnessed, can provide us the prospect of not dying. I kept referring to that, and then kept waiting for some kind of news, but so far I haven't heard anything. But even allowing that becomes a reality, so long as the aging is not addressed, then there's no good then there is no good in living forever. There will be even more suffering. And then if that also do not take away our susceptibility to sickness, then there's no point. It's like having more sickness, more aging, more senility, more senescence, all of that. What is it? Just for the sake of living longer. No point. But this deathlessness is a different thing. Except it's a little difficult to wrap our head around. But in Buddhism, there is a trend. Things possible would be mentioned much earlier, but its full explanation cannot be found there. And there, they will try to explain it. They are desperate to come up with something. Desperate in the sense that it has to match with their level of the reading of the world, their level of how it explains, how it presents it, so that people, beings in their journey of finding more joy and more happiness, lasting ones, can kind of catch up with them one step at a time. But they would make claims beforehand, whereas the full explanation can be found only in the highest Yoga Tantra. And when we speak of highest Yoga Tantra and other Tantric Vajrayana teachings, they are specific to this world. Some aspects of it are specific to this world. I heard His Holiness the Dalai Lama saying, no matter wherever it may be, so long as we are sentient beings, the only way to become fully awakened is by harnessing our subtlest clear light mind. In what ways we do, it will vary with what kind of a being we are, what our mechanism is. So our mechanism, our physical, mental mechanism of this world is unique. And so the tantric practices of how to actualize this clear light mind without having to just only wait until we die, where there is no surety whether we'll be able to be up to the task in recognizing it, identifying it, and utilizing it on the path. Instead of waiting for that unsure prospect, actualizing it beforehand while you're fully active, it employs certain methods, but those methods will not work in other world systems because of their different physical of their different physiology. But when it comes to mind, so long as a sentient being, no matter where it may be, the basic pattern, the basic function, the basic mode of behaving would be same. So in any case, His Holiness says, in any case, it would have to be always, everywhere, anytime. It would have to be always through the means of highest, through the means of the clear, subtlest clear light mind, and its mount in the form of the subtlest energy. It's always a combination. So this general statement in Buddhism, even in the scriptures also saying that is when mind leaves body, mind is all by itself now, all alone. That's again a very general statement. It needs to be refined, fine-tuned to say that no, it never is always mind by itself. At the subtlest, even at the subtlest level, it will have its own accompanying physical element. So It's all, they are so intertwined, so much so that they could be even called the same thing. Same thing with two sides, you may call them. But nonetheless, one is mental, another is non-mental. That's how we could explain locality, which is very essential to make sense. Otherwise, if mind were to just be on its own with no physicality whatsoever, it should be either everywhere or nowhere. But that's not the case. In while saying, even when we say that, oh yeah, mind leaves the body, now the mind is by itself, yet at the same time it is somewhere. How come? Cannot be. Because mind, if it is not physical and doesn't rely on any physical substratum, then it would have to be everywhere or nowhere. Yet at the same time, even at the sutra levels, they kind of make that statement, yet at the same time not touch on this locality part, because that part cannot be explained fully at that level, only at the highest Yoga Tantra level. So anyway, all I'm doing is trying to push my agenda. that yes, there is something called deathlessness. And it's because of a substance within us, of an element within us, which has not been born, not ceased, which is not born, nor does it ever cease. All the rest do. Well, I'm not quoting Heart Sutra here, okay? So, no birth, no death, no I, no nose. I'm not speaking in terms of ultimate reality on conventional level. So that's why we speak of these four maras in relation to this question, in relation to this phenomena of deathlessness. How these four maras are associated with this. We say in this topic of four maras, circle around the theme of deathlessness, or death, or the deficiency of death, or the death, or the prospect of deathlessness. What dies? What causes death? What is death? What prevents us from being deathless? On those four terms, right? What dies? The aggregates. What causes death? Afflictions. What is death? Death is death. What prevents us from being deathless? On a gross level, the Devaputra, but on a subtler level, because I told you that there are subtle levels of the four maras as well. The ones that are counted here are the gross level. So in place of polluted aggregate, its subtle counterpart will be mental body generated through. It's difficult to convey. Anyway, mental body that a four destroyer who is no more subject to afflictions. Mental bodies that four destroyer, even bodhisattva at the Arya level, who are no more subject to the influence of afflictions and actions induced by them, the mental bodies that they can take. That is the yet nonetheless that has its own deficiencies. In terms of affliction, the subtle counterpart of the affliction Mara would be, of course, no more afflictions. Affliction would have been totally eradicated. But this is the subtle stains of the afflictions. The subtle stains, not even the latency, not even the root, not even the seed. The seed would have been already completely overcome, destroyed, when the afflictions are destroyed and rendered unreturnable. But their subtle stains, which is responsible for this unavoidable mistaken appearance of things, even when one has advanced to the level of the 10th bhumi, which would be the last bhumi before Buddhahood, even till then. So that is the subtle. Now the subtle death is a very interesting one. This death, this gross death, is the death that we are all subject to. What kind of a death? Over which we have no control. Some other force has a control over it, but not us. You may or may not like to die, right? But it will be, in any case, enforced by afflictions and actions induced by them. Even in the case of intended death also, it will be under the force of, it will be when we would be out of our mind and would be completely overcome by the affliction, and that drives an action, leads to this death. But even without that also, natural death, we live up to 10, 100, or whatever, and we die in sleep, whatever. It's something not we have under control. So death induced by some other force over which we have no control. But there is this, even in the Tibetan also, the subtle counterpart of death Mara is called inconceivable death. Samjimi Chapa. Samjimi Chapa is a Tibetan term which is very tricky. Sometimes Samjimi Chapa is a quality that you ascribe to something. Oh, wonderful, wonderful! I cannot even conceive of it. I cannot even imagine that could happen. Wonderful, in that sense. But here it doesn't have that quality of wondrous nature, or maybe so, but nonetheless it is suggesting more in terms of how it is so far from our usual strength of conception that it is inconceivable. Nonetheless, something that happens beyond our control. But this happens to bodhisattvas at the 10th level even. Who are way past completely eliminating their afflictions and actions induced by them, thus way past the prospect of ever going through the gross death. So they can today I found another term, better term for translating Chingilaba. Chingilaba comes, Chingilaba, which we usually translate as blessed, that cannot be blessed. Because we speak of the Maras Chingilaba. They do not bless us, they put their spell on us, right? So it is more like an influence, right? So a bodhisattva at the 10th level can even, quote unquote, Chinjilapa, death, in the sense that they can extend their life. But so have gone way past overcoming the usual death that we understand, which is called the Mara of death in the grosser sense. But even the Bodhisattvas on the 10th Bhumi, 9th Bhumi onwards, those are only pure Bhumis, 8th, 9th and 10th. Even they succumb to it after having lived so long, or even having had the choice of extending their life. They could, an inconceivable death could befall them. And who is responsible for that? The subtle version of the Devaputra Mara. So we call it Devaputra Mara, but this subtle Devaputra Mara is not a being at all. It is a force that it is a force that that obstructs, at least, that functions as an obstruction to achieving deathlessness, the subtlest one. The gross Devaputra, the force of the gross Devaputra Mara can be overcome. This is interesting. Can be overcome when one attains the path of seeing. Now, be warned, unless we have worked our way till the path of seeing, we could fall under the influence of even Devaputra, in the form of his or her, or rather I should confine to his, because Devaputra, here I cannot play around with it, right? It is Devaputra, not Putri. So yeah, be warned, we can be under the influence of the Devaputra in terms of our thoughts and whatnot. And it's quite eye-opening to find the scriptures mention that when one attains the path of seeing, which is when one would have now gained incontrovertible faith experientially in the efficaciousness of the Buddha's teaching, in the form of having now generated an actual cessation, actual state of abandonment, which has rendered its object of abandonment totally unreturnable, irreversible. And that has been given rise to by its corresponding path, which will be the true path. The path capable of, not from far, the path capable of immediately, in its next immediate moment, capable of generating this true cessation. Even if that may be just of the acquired afflictions. But although all it has abandoned is acquired afflictions, which includes both emotional afflictions as well as cognitive afflictions. But nonetheless, those acquired afflictions have been rendered totally irreversible. Thus, the first ever taste of true cessation has been felt. So now, Devaputra cannot mess with you. You are so firm in your stand that it cannot fool you at all. But we still have the subtle Mara Devaputra, non-being Mara in Devaputra form, non-being Devaputra Mara, which is just called Devaputra for the sake of calling it, but it's not at all a putra, neither a putri, nor a being. Well, I dwell a lot on the Maras. I don't know why. I might have got influenced by Mara today. But at least I'm speaking against it, speaking bad of it. So that's some sign that I'm not under the influence. In the West, when you say under the influence, it means just one thing, right? Or two things. But you could be under the influence of so many things. And the Mara Putra, the Deva Putra is one that we need to really watch over. Could come in so many different kinds of thoughts, ideas like that. To be always on the guard. So mainly it comes in the form of thoughts. In the form of thoughts that you are susceptible to. It could feed you with something outwardly appealing, yet having the function of corrupting you from within. And that continues until you have reached the path of seeing. And not just having entered into the first gate, but even going past the second gate, and having the third path, the third gate, finally you can say, okay, bye-bye, right? Manaputra, bye-bye. By the way, think twice in what you want to do, right? Get changed yourself. It's not going to work all the time to all beings. So that's why gate, para gate is marked with para, an extra thing, extra tag there, because it really is a big milestone. Okay, we must push through. I just did it one line. But that was interesting. Yeah, very much so. Yes, I still have some wrapping my head around to do. I have some questions. Okay. Okay. So, by the way, the maras that I mentioned here, except for the distraction to external objects, which could be very general, all the three, at least the first two are the gross levels. The third one, that could be either our typical death under the force of afflictions, or inconceivable death under some other external force. Even after having gained this capacity of prolonging one's life several times, nonetheless, one could still succumb to death sometime. But the deathlessness, that's because, except for Buddha, except for someone who has become, until we have become fully awakened, which means leaving nothing unactivated, which means not even sparing the subtle escalated mind. When it is fully activated, then that's all it will remain, because its awakening in activation also means leaving behind all the rest of the grossness also. So being fully functional at that time. So deathlessness. So that's an interesting topic. So that means Buddhas don't die. Once you become Buddha, you don't die. Now, once I've thrown this, so many questions that come in your mind. Once I was in Thailand. I was in Thailand only once. Yes, only once. One of those times. One of the days I went on alms round in my barefoot. I suffered. Couldn't bear even the small pebbles because I was not used to walking barefoot at all. But I did survive, and I enjoyed it. So there, one of my activities was going to 2-3 universities. One is called, any of you know some university in Bangkok? Yeah, Chulalongkorn. That was one. I went, and then is Chulalongkorn the one that Venerable Dhammananda was a professor? That's a different one. Chulalongkorn is the other one. There's one that Venerable Dhammananda, the Bhikshuni, was teaching at that. So I went to a couple of these universities, and we had a discussion. One of them asked, "So you believe that Buddha is still alive?" And one of them asked, yeah, and my main topic of discussion was how to generate bodhicitta. They were so interested, they fascinated by it, and they asked it. But they were not so convinced about the sequential order of the instructions. How could it be so fixed? They asked. I kind of thought, okay, that's understandable. Yeah, it shouldn't be taught as so rigid as such. But nonetheless, we could account for some causality in there. So yeah, they asked very typical Vaibhashika questions. Not to say that Theravadas necessarily are all Vaibhashikas by their philosophical viewpoint, but the questions really circled around Vaibhashikas. It came live. What we studied in the Tensa, like Vaibhashikas believed, it came so live there. And I had to really defend myself. I said, yes, Buddhas are still around. The one Buddha that appeared in the history was a mere demonstration. But Buddha is still alive. Whereas in the Vaibhashika system, that's considered the actual Buddha, all there is. And he was, up until full awakening, an ordinary being, and from the point of awakening, an awakened being. Nonetheless, still with body that is subject to pain, etc. Then I said, no, that cannot be the actual Buddha. He is said to have, by you quoting their assertion, he is said to have spent 3 countless eons accumulating merits, and all he got to do is just live 45 more years to teach the Dharma and be gone. That is so unjust. That is not typical working of causality. And there were other questions also. I listed them, and I went back to Varanasi where I was teaching. I said, I have something to share. I said, this came so live. They asked this, and this is this. How else are you going to answer it? So, yeah, so the natural question is the Buddha alive? So, one pursuit of a Buddhist is pursuit to, another way of saying pursuing Buddhahood is saying pursuing deathlessness, and thus being able to benefit to all sentient beings all the time. And being okay. Let me push it a little bit. I will read it. Since the mind has the natural capacity to be aware and to understand, when all obscurations have been removed, it will be able to directly perceive all phenomena. Directly perceive all phenomena, all at once. Just to share with you the Vaibhashika's perspective of a Buddha being omniscient is that they can know anything so long as they attend to it. At any given time, they are capable of knowing everything. Not that they know everything, but at any given time, as soon as they direct their attention anywhere, they would have known it. But in the case of the Mahayana, the Madhyamika, they were literally say, they know everything at any given time. That said, and that too, they know it directly, perceptually, because Buddhas don't have any conceptual thoughts. I shared with you, right? From a scientific point of view, at least science at this moment, there's no mind but conceptual mind. If you have no conceptual mind, you cannot get by. Even going from here to there, you have to be able to have a conceptual mind. In really conceiving, guessing what it might look like, how I should gear myself, steer myself, all of that. Those are all conceptual thoughts. Buddhas don't have even the slightest, even a teeny tiny bit of that. All they have by way of mentality is perceptual, which means unmediated, direct understanding. And now that includes the two truths, right? A Buddha's omniscient mind is able to realize simultaneously both veiled and ultimate truth with a single consciousness. Now, even Buddhas have to, when it comes to how things work, Buddhas are no exception, right? How come it is unfair that sentient beings, when they have a perceptual understanding of emptiness, they lose sight of all other things? They just immerse in it in such a way that they do not see any conventional things. When they see conventional things, they cannot perceive ultimate truth directly. They always have to alternate between the two. Like today after lunch, the prayer ends with appearance emptiness. Even if we try to capture that appearance emptiness together, my best way of understanding that and trying to do that is looking out into the window or through a glass door, not around this time when all you see is the reflection, but in the daytime when there is sun right outside. So you look, you can see the trees, but if you kind of shift the focus, you can see yourself there. But if you do like this, so my understanding of emptiness appearance is you see yourself, you lose yourself, you see yourself, you lose yourself. I cannot conceive emptiness appearance simultaneously, perceiving simultaneously. It's so difficult. And in the sentient beings, not a single sentient being, even the Aryas included, be them of the highest 10th level, they can't do it. They just have to alternate between the two. When they understand emptiness inferentially, maybe they have both the conventional truth and ultimate truth, but that's not seeing them directly. So for the sentient beings, seeing them directly together is never a possibility. It's because being immersed in emptiness involves in the ultimate losing the object on which one began the search. Not in the sense of negating it, not in the sense of making it non-existent, but in the sense of affirming or in the sense of confirming that it is not findable in the ultimate analysis. And in the course of that probing, we lose sight of it. And that's the only way we could confront its mere negation, its mere lack of It's mere lack of inherent existence. Now my question is, how come Buddhas don't respect this rule? By the way, they do. I have a difficulty expressing it in English, but I will try. Even Buddhas, they do see both the truths simultaneously together. But in terms of seeing the ultimate truth, they do not see the conventional truth. In terms of seeing the conventional truth, they do not see the ultimate truth. They still follow that same rule. I use the term in terms of, I don't know what it means, but how it comes across. But the rule still applies. Rule is rule. The law of working causality is okay. With that, we all aspire to see appearance emptiness, not by having to do this. By the way, it is quite interesting. You see your face, and you zoom out, you see the trees. You can even do so by completely losing even the frame of your face. But when you zoom in, you can see yourself, colors and all of that, right? We can all relate to that experience. So that's how I try to imagine what seeing emptiness. But I cannot help but alternate between the two. Simultaneously coming, it's very difficult to imagine even. So let's aspire to be able to do that without having to alternate. But in the meantime, do try that also. That will give us a glimpse of appearance, emptiness in a quick succession. Okay, please leave here. Thank you.
May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it, have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of wholesome's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamiratayami. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezi, may you stay until samsara ends. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma, done by groups supporting the teachings and their upholders, who spread the view of dependent arising and non-violent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the West. Glory.